So Jibreel alayhi salam has already come to give salam specifically to the woman that the Prophet ﷺ loved most, the best woman of this ummah, Khadija radiallahu anha, and give her the glad tidings of her home in paradise. Now, after she passes away, we know that this was a period of great sadness for the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not get married for some time. And eventually, Khawla radiallahu anha comes to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and suggests to him to get married to two women. So she brings up Sauda radiallahu anha, who's old and who can be motherly to his children, and she's also particularly distinguished with her laughter. And also Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, who she introduces as the daughter of the most beloved person to you. Okay, so it was Khawla radiallahu anha who first came to the Prophet ﷺ and suggested Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. However, it would be some time before the Prophet ﷺ would marry Aisha radiallahu anha, because it would be until she would reach her age. However, there is another dream that the Prophet ﷺ says. And in that dream, the Prophet ﷺ sees Jibreel alayhi salam once again. And Jibreel alayhi salam approaches the Prophet ﷺ in this dream, and he shows the Prophet ﷺ a green cloth made of silk. And on that green cloth made of silk is an image of Aisha radiallahu anha. And Jibreel alayhi salam says, "Inna hadhihi zawjatuka fi dunya wal akhirah." This here is going to be your spouse in this dunya and in the hereafter. So subhanAllah, Jibreel alayhi salam, who just gave Khadija radiallahu anha the glad tidings of what she's going to, is now telling the Prophet ﷺ what comes next for him. And that would be Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, who would spend so much time with the Prophet ﷺ, and of course would be his joy and would document the life of the Prophet ﷺ in such detail for us. And this would be the woman that would be around the Prophet ﷺ in his moments of privacy, in his moments of worship, in so many different moments where he's interacting with Jibreel alayhi salam. So you just think about the amount of times she would have interacted with the angels in the presence of the Prophet ﷺ during his qiyam, which she narrates more than anyone else. And there's a specific narration where Abu Salama ibn Abdurrahman, he said, I asked Aisha radiallahu anha, how would the Prophet ﷺ start his prayer? So she said when he used to get up and he would pray at night, he would start his prayer with the words, Allahumma Rabba Jibreel wa Mikail wa Israfil. فاطر السماوات والأرض عالم الغيب والشهادة أنت تحكم بين عبادك فيما كانوا فيه يختلفون اهدني لما اختلف فيه من الحق إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. So, O Allah, the Lord of Jibreel and Mikail and Israfil, creator of the heavens and the earth, knower of the unseen and the seen, you are the one who judges between your slaves concerning that which they differ over. O Allah, guide me to the disputed matters of truth, or through those differences to the truth, for you are the one who guides to the straight path. So Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha is narrating the way that the Prophet ﷺ is calling upon Allah and invoking Allah, first and foremost, before the Lord of the heavens and the earth, the Lord of the angels, and naming these angels in particular. Now, did Jibreel alayhi salam ever himself interact with Aisha radiallahu anha? Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she says that the Prophet ﷺ once said to me, Ya Aisha, O Aisha, هذا Jibreel, يقرأ عليك السلام. Jibreel alayhi salam is here and he sends you salam. So Jibreel alayhi salam specifically names Aisha radiallahu anha to send salam to her, and Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha responds and she says, Wa alayhi salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and upon him is salam and Allah's mercy and his blessings. And she says, Ya Rasulullah, tara ma la ara. O Messenger of Allah, you see things that I don't see. SubhanAllah, you are seeing this and I don't see it. This was Jibreel alayhi salam coming in his angelic form. There are also times that Aisha radiallahu anha would see Jibreel alayhi salam in human form, which we will talk about, from a distance, however. So this is the woman who Jibreel alayhi salam would come to the Prophet ﷺ most in her presence. And this is something the Prophet ﷺ mentioned as one of the fada'il, one of the virtues of Aisha radiallahu anha, is that there is no person who Jibreel alayhi salam came to him in her presence, in any human being's presence, like Aisha radiallahu anha, and of course even to the very moment of his death, when the Prophet ﷺ's body and soul was perched against the chest of Aisha radiallahu anha in his last moments, while the Prophet ﷺ was having that conversation with Jibreel alayhi salam, where he was given the option to stay amongst his followers on earth or to join the highest companion, it would be in the hands, in the arms of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, with the Prophet ﷺ responding and his soul leaving his body. So Aisha radiallahu anha has experienced a mighty journey of interactions with Jibreel alayhi salam, and she used to mention this as well from her fada'il, from her virtues, that Jibreel alayhi salam was the one who proposed on her behalf, that Allah sent Jibreel alayhi salam with the declaration of her innocence, that Jibreel alayhi salam used to come to her with salam, that Jibreel alayhi salam used to come to the Prophet ﷺ with revelation frequently while she was in his presence. However, she also notes that there's one person that surpassed her in this regard. And so in one of the narrations where she says, Wallahi, I was never jealous of any woman the way I was of Khadija. And she starts to mention that the Prophet ﷺ used to mention Khadija radiallahu anha so much. And the Prophet ﷺ would not sacrifice except that he sent something to her friends. And then she mentions at the end of this narration, and Allah sent Jibreel alayhi salam to give her the good news of having a palace of qasab in paradise. So even though Aisha radiallahu anha encountered Jibreel alayhi salam and had the experience of having salam delivered to her from Jibreel alayhi salam, she did not have what Khadija radiallahu anha had of the bushra, the glad tiding of that particular palace of qasab in paradise.